New problems need new thinking. This program is proudly brought to you by IBM. Let's put smart to work.
What happens when your booming company loses 80% of its business overnight? Well, Airbnb co-founder Brian Chesky was planning for a busy 2020 with an IPO on the cards, but then COVID-19. Will the travel sector ever come back to its pre-pandemic glory days? Find out more. I'm joined by David Swan, the technology editor for The Australian. David, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So how did Airbnb cope with the almost complete collapse of their business?
Yeah, good to be with you, Pete. And look, speaking to Brian Chesky, he said this was the most difficult time of his professional or personal life. COVID-19 absolutely smashed the company. They were forced to effectively hit pause on the app around the world with travel lockdowns. And what he made the difficult decision to do was to cut about 25% of Airbnb's workforce, or about 1,900 people, and also cut things that the company was thinking about doing. It was starting a magazine, it was getting into transportation, for example. He decided that Airbnb simply couldn't afford to do those things, and it had to make these deep cuts.
What about the future of travel? What's his prediction?
Yeah, so he said that business travel in particular just will probably never go back to pre-COVID levels, that, that's changed forever, that executives won't fly for an hour-long or a 2-hour-long meeting, for example, and they're trips that cost companies thousands of dollars, and they simply won't happen again. The other thing is that, I guess, for leisure travel, that'll look more regional and domestic for a long time, rather than international.
Airbnb had received a lot of flack about its role in overrunning cities such as Barcelona and driving out residents. What's his view on that now?
Yeah, he sounded very contrite. I mean, we spoke for an hour, Pete, and he said that, Airbnb, it was a bit like Uber, I guess, in that it would go into a city and then, set up and then think about the consequences later. He said that Airbnb wanted to be a really sort of thoughtful citizen in the world and liaise a lot more with communities and with governments. They've done things like ban parties from their platform, for example, so you can't book an Airbnb for a party anymore. But he sounded like that, he wanted to be a lot more thoughtful about how Airbnb would behave as a tech company going forward.
So what does he see as the outlook for Airbnb in Australia?
So we're almost back to pre-COVID levels for Airbnb here. We're a top 5 market for the company, and the company's really returning to its roots. As I said, it's cut a lot of the plans for things it was doing. It's returning to just being a holiday vacation sort of platform. And we're seeing Australians pick the app back up and start using it for travel regionally and domestically.
OK, David, thank you. And for more on David's exclusive interview with Brian Chesky, you can check out the /podcast. It's available now on the Australian mobile app or any podcast player.